What's up guys, today's video is how to literally never get submitted. This may sound like clickbait, but it's not. Clickbait would be something like, watch this video and you'll never get submitted again. I will teach you why and how you're getting submitted, which will absolutely help you get submitted less and make better defensive decisions. Your opponent can only get to a dominant position and submit you if you give up inside position. So what is inside position? Inside position in regards to your body is the space between your ear and shoulder and your hip to your armpit. If your opponent controls the space, then you are controlled. The best way to visualize this is a car seatbelt. Why is it designed the way it is and why is it so effective? Because it controls the inside space so effectively. It controls the space between your ear and shoulder and your armpit to your hip. The way the seatbelt is designed is the exact same way as the major dominant positions in Jiu-Jitsu, such as the back, side control, north-south, and mounts. And when your opponent gets their limbs or body on the inside of these areas, you're in trouble. This video will have a huge impact on your Jiu-Jitsu, I know it, and it'll be broken down into the following categories: inside position overview, inside position prevention, how inside position applies to side control, how inside position applies to the mount, how inside position applies to the back, and case studies. Before we delve deeper, I'd like to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, HelloFresh. Our family's been using HelloFresh for over a year and it's been a huge help, especially with our super busy schedules. We're always looking for ways to make things easier for us, and HelloFresh meals have been a game changer. Savor every last second of summer. HelloFresh delivers fresh, quality produce from the farm to your door in less than a week, so you can enjoy the delicious flavors of the season right from home. HelloFresh's line of kid-friendly recipes is picky eater proof, perfect for families looking to try something new as the summer winds down and back to school comes around. Our kids can be picky and they love these recipes. Fit and wholesome recipes make it easy to eat well without sacrificing flavor, so you can maintain your goals and feel good about your food choices with HelloFresh. HelloFresh recipes include pre-portioned ingredients that mean less prep for you and less wasted food. Go to HelloFresh.com and use code Jiujitsu16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. That's HelloFresh.com and use code Jiujitsu16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. The way the seatbelt is designed is the exact same way as the major dominant positions in Jiu-Jitsu. The back is the best example. Your arms act as a shoulder strap and your hooks act as the waist strap. A body lock's even closer to a true car seat as your legs are positioned entirely over the waist. Side control too is a great example, as the arm positioning is the same as the back. You're just in front of them instead of behind them. The cross face controls the space between the ear and shoulder, and the underhook controls the space between the armpit and hip. And your hip or knee act as the waist strap of the car seatbelt. All chokes require your opponent to gain access to the space between your ear and shoulder, and many, like the darce or triangle, also require the space between the armpit and hip, just like the shoulder strap of the car seatbelt. And nearly all joint locks require the space to be controlled as well. With the exception of leg locks, inside position still applies to your arms and legs, but just with a slightly different application. When it comes to your limbs, you want to get your arms or legs to the inside of theirs. For example, look at this takedown entry. Daniel in the white was able to enter the takedown because he had an unobstructed path to the hips because he had inside position. His grips were on the inside of his opponents, leaving his opponent with nothing in the way to stop him, and his opponent wouldn't be able to shoot for his own takedown because Daniel had inside position and we use his frame to keep the distance. Look at why I pummel my feet to the inside to retain my guard. Here, Chewy has inside grips on me, but when I circle my feet to the inside, now I have inside position on him and it'll be much harder for Chewy to pass. So we know we can't let our opponent have inside position on us, but how do we stop them? That brings us into the next chapter, preventing inside position. There are 3 main ways to prevent inside position. 1. Grip fight to control where your opponent's grips go and prevent them from getting the inside space. 2. Use frames to keep the distance between your opponent and your inside space. And 3. Hide the space by closing the space between your ear and shoulder and armpit and hip. We won't focus on grip fighting only because I already have a video dedicated to that, and the other 2 are way more important to understand within the context of this video. Frames prevent your opponent from taking the inside space because it's the structural strength of your bones in the way of where they want to put their body. There are 2 types of frames, short frames and long frames. A long frame is where your limb is fully extended, and a short frame is the lower part of your limb closest to the torso. For your leg, that means your knee to your hip, and for your arm, that's your elbow to your shoulder. Generally, short frames are more important and more practical. Frames can be used to prevent inside position entirely, or be used when your opponent has some inside position on you and the only thing you have left is your frame to prevent them from capitalizing and advancing position. For example, my opponent is trying to knee slide on me to take the inside position by way of side control, but my knee shield is a short frame that keeps the distance. Now look, when I go to knee slide on him, he doesn't have a knee shield and I'm able to pass. In these examples, because I'm able to place my hip in the space between their armpit and hip, I have a much easier time passing than if there was a knee shield in the way. Here, my opponent has an underhook on me, and an underhook is inside position. It controls the space between your armpit and hip, and if I didn't frame with my head, he could use that underhook to take me down. My frame keeps a distance, and now I circle in my own underhook and dramatically improve my positioning. Here I have an underhook on my opponent, and I'm able to get to my knees and sweep him. But here my opponent has an underhook on me, but I frame with my knee to keep the distance and prevent him from being able to use that inside space effectively. So it should be clear that frames prevent inside position, but now let's look at closing that space in the first place. We need to hide that space when someone is trying to take it. This can be achieved in many ways. First off, let's talk about T-Rex arms. T-Rexes keep their arms close to their body, and so should you. If you keep your arms close to your body, it's difficult for your opponent to take inside position because your arm is glued to your torso, allowing no space between your armpit and not all the way to your hip, but pretty close. T-Rex arms also allow you to grip fight to prevent your opponent from grabbing the space between your ear and shoulder. Simply put, they prevent your opponent from grabbing your head. This is important because where the head goes, the body must follow, and if your head is controlled, it's very difficult to move. Watch out here, I prevent my opponent from grabbing my head, and then when I sweep them, I immediately grab their head and use it to pass. I prevented them from taking a dominant passing grip on me, and they didn't prevent me from taking it on them because they didn't use their T-Rex arms like I did. If you don't keep your elbows tight to your body, you risk your opponent taking inside grips like underhooks and kimuras. Underhooks lead to sweeps, passes, takedowns, and more. You must keep your elbows tight to prevent them. The kimura is available when you see what's called the open elbow, and it's entirely preventable if you keep your elbows tight like a T-Rex. Now let's look at applying our understanding of preventing inside position to escape and prevent submissions from side control. The best possible scenario is for your opponent to not have an underhook or control of your head, and we need T-Rex arms to achieve this. See how as Bernardo transitions from my legs to upper body control, I immediately use my T-Rex arms to prevent him from taking inside position. This allows me to bump and shrimp and retain my guard. Bernardo Fario is literally one of the best grapplers of all time and much larger than me. If I can use these fundamentals to escape against him, you should have success with it too. Having control of only the legs or waist is similar to only having the waist strap of a seatbelt on. It controls you, but you're likely not going to get submitted unless they get the shoulder strap. I can't let him get the shoulder strap or I'm screwed. If your opponent does have control of your head, we can at least make sure that they don't get the underhook too. If they have the underhook and head, it is so hard to escape, and if you're a lower belt, you're likely giving up the underhook so often without realizing how detrimental it is to do. Never reach up above the head, always keep your arms in front. Even if they don't get the underhook, we don't want them to get underneath the elbow either because it's still inside position and you risk getting submitted or them advancing position. You need to keep your elbow on the inside so you can escape much easier. This is the best bottom side control scenario if your head is controlled. It makes it much easier to take underhooks that you can use to escape, and it makes it much easier to bump and shrimp, especially if they don't have a super tight grip on your head. The tighter the grip on the head, the harder it'll be to escape. That's why preventing head control is so important. Again, head control is control of the inside position. The first thing you want to do when you get your guard pass is close off the inside position. Use your T-Rex arms to prevent head control if you can, and keep your elbows tight to your body. Watch some of these examples of my opponents doing the opposite of this. In every scenario, each one puts their arms in a disadvantageous position for both escaping and a higher risk of getting submitted.
I'm not sure what to do with my hands.
They're getting submitted because they're willingly giving me inside position and I'm capitalizing on it. Again, number one priority should be close out the access to the inside position. Now let's look at applying our understanding of preventing inside position to escape and prevent submissions from mount. For nearly all submissions from mount, the more your arms are separated from your body, the easier it is for your opponent to submit you. Generally, there's three main ways to separate someone's arms from their body in mount. Number one, taking the underhook when they separate their elbow from their body, leaving room to take inside position, just like we looked at from side control. Number two, getting underneath the elbow and jacking the arm up, just like we looked at from side control too. And number three, when your opponent willingly lifts up their arms, which is a technical mistake. Look at how when my opponent keeps his elbows tight, I don't have grips I can use to submit him and he's able to escape. But here when I'm under his arm with inside position, there's no escape available and he gets submitted. In mount, it's difficult to prevent head control because reaching up is so catastrophic. The best thing you can do is make sure the back of your head is glued to the mat, but if they do get control of your head, it's not a huge deal from mount. Just do not let them get underneath your arms. Now let's look at applying our understanding and preventing inside position to escape and prevent submissions from the back. Rule number one of back defense and escaping is to protect your neck. Wu-Tang would agree, and next you have to do two other steps and the order doesn't matter. You need to get your hips off the center line and need to break the upper body control, the seatbelt grip. You can only reach down to the hooks if you're following rule number one and protecting your neck. If you reach down and you aren't protecting your neck, you're going to get submitted. Here I have my back half taken, but I'm protecting my neck with my hips already off the center line. All that's left to do is to break the upper body control to take off the seatbelt. I do, and then I get the underhook and sweep him inside position for the win. Here I have Chewy's back, he's protecting his neck, breaks the upper body control, and then gets his hips off the center line. Such a beautiful escape. Preventing inside position for the back has to be done early, as the grips needed when you have the back are the same needed to take the back. Watch out here, I wait for my opponent to give me access to the space between his hips and his armpit so I can insert my knee and take his back. He should have closed out that space. Now let's look at some case studies so we can put it all together. Here I have the underhook on my opponent, which is inside position. I just need to break the waist strap of the seatbelt that he has on me. Once I do, his frame momentarily stops me, but once I get past it, I'm now deep into the pass. Look at his right arm, his focus now should be hiding inside position by adjusting his grips. He doesn't react early enough, and now when he does try to adjust, it's too late. Here my opponent is reaching over me, which gives me access to the space between his armpit and hip, and I use it to take an underhook. I get past his frame and execute a knee slide. My opponent adjusts to proper defensive grips by using his T-Rex arms and doesn't get submitted right away as a result, unlike the last example. Frames beat inside position. My opponent puts me in the buggy choke, which controls space between my ear and shoulder and armpit to hip. I keep the distance and escape using my frame. Frames beat inside position, but angles beat frames. That's a topic for another time though. Here I can guillotine my opponent because he leaves space wide open between his ear and shoulder. Look how I hide the space when a guillotine is attempted on me. So to summarize, don't let people take inside position on you or they can take you down, pass your guard, and submit you. If you do end up in a bad position like your guard is passed, focus on adjusting your grips so you're not giving up inside position or you'll get submitted. The number one priority when something bad happens should be to get your grips in a good defensive position so you can defend and escape. This video is one category of what I consider to be Jiu-Jitsu theory. If I made a long form instructional on Jiu-Jitsu theory, would you buy it? Let me know and I'll start working on it. I now post the gi classes I teach at the gym every week on my Patreon, so if you want to gain access to class and support the channel, head on over there. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons who support the channel and the sponsor of the video, HelloFresh. If you're still here, please leave a comment or a fist bump, and I'll see you guys next time.